All right, we're back here. TDA After Dark. Justin, it's been a little while since we've been face to face, but our lives are crazy.
Yeah.
I know yours just got a little bit more a little bit crazier. If you want to just you had a little bit of a big event the other week here.
Yeah, it definitely was a huge event, a life-changing event. Yeah. For everyone who doesn't know, I did officially get married a couple of weeks ago here, so I'm
off the market.
Yes, so
off the market. Everyone in the comments. I know everyone's gonna be. All the ladies are gonna be upset. Justin's locked down.
Yeah, so I am a newlywed. I'm excited to see what the life holds for me and my wife. Definitely moving forward, and it is definitely a huge step. But it has been a rough couple of weeks in terms of moving. I hate moving. I know you said you moved recently.
Yeah, and I moved recently too. It sucks. It's brutal. It just, especially down in Alabama, it's just hot. I don't like that.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with me moving was I was in your mind. You think, the sofa and the bigger thing is going to be the hardest part, but those were pretty smooth. We got the big things out. Then it was like, oh, hold up, it's the smaller every little thing that you forgot that you use almost every day. But yeah, it's definitely been a challenge.
I'm always. Well, this was like kind of, other than moving into my college apartment, this is like my second or third big move technically. So I was like, I looked up online, like what is what the common mover does, get one overnight bag or, sort through your stuff and throw it out, which is something I should have done because I just have so much crap that I need to get rid of, but I'm a hoarder. So it's just going to stay piled up in my closet forever.
Yeah, we throw away a lot of stuff. I kind of felt like
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I kind of felt like a hoarder. I was like, I kind of see what they feel like because it was some stuff you was like, I don't want to throw this away, but I don't really have a use for it now because we're kind of sort of in that middle of you left college and I sort of still have some of my high school stuff, but it's time to get rid of it.
I don't want to throw out my faded 2012 lifting shirt from football. No, It's just going to stay with me forever. The logo's ripped off, the sleeves are off, but it's mine. It's part of me now.
Yeah, those were some tough decisions that a lot got thrown away.
Yeah, you got marriage is about compromise. So, but getting back to the main conversations here. We got a lot of NFL talk going on, especially with the draft coming in the month or so.
Yeah.
Who knows? But the 49ers gave up an arm and a leg to trade up to the number 3 overall pick. And there's a lot of conflicting reports out there. Is Mac Jones the guy? Is it Justin Fields? I know there's a video shared online today from some Ohio State fans of not showing some of the lowlights from Mac Jones' pro day, which is, that's kind of weird to me in the sense. Well, I understand. The guy cleared it up, being like, "Oh no, I still think Mac Jones is great after the fact." But But anyways, like if a guy's gonna overthrow someone in shorts and shirts, and that's gonna be your point where it's like, you know what, I'm not sold on this guy just because he overthrew Devonta Smith by 5 yards at his pro day. Then I can't. That might not be the best way to run your NFL franchise to me.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the pro day in terms of against no competition, basically.
Yeah, you're throwing on air.
Yeah.
Look, everyone's gonna look good. Everyone's gonna have some incompletions. Yeah. They're gonna hit the turf. I mean, it's just not. People take way too much away from it. Like the Zach Wilson throw. I don't know if you saw it, where he's all contorted and throws it 50 yards downfield. Yeah, it was a bomb, but when's he ever gonna do that in a game? There's only one guy who can do that. It's Patrick Mahomes, and I don't. Nothing against Zach Wilson. He's not Patrick Mahomes, at least to me. So I think people get way too hung up on these things personally. But going back to the draft here for a second, I want to know your opinion because I know where I stand. Do you think Mac Jones should be picked ahead of Justin Fields? Wherever, even if it's number 3 or just even further back?
No?
Yeah,
I mean, I really like both quarterbacks. I think they are two different quarterbacks, and it all depends on what your team wants to do. If you want a mobile quarterback, and if you want a quarterback who's
there's the word,
get things done with his feet and with his arm, you may want to go with Justin Fields. Of course, Mac Jones is not the most mobile quarterback in this draft or anything like that, but he got it done in Alabama, and I think you can't take that away, although some people will bring up he had everybody on his team. He had Superman and Batman, and how you going to lose with the whole DC universe on your team? But But looking at what Mac Jones brings to the table, I think he showed what he can do multiple times during that season, because it was time where he played almost perfect. And I don't care who you have on your team. I think in a lot of situations he showed that it could have been almost any wide receiver, decent wide receiver, and I think he still would have been a great quarterback at Alabama.
I mean, like, and the whole argument of, oh, he had the best at Alabama. What do you think you're going to have in the NFL? You know, these are all even the number 3 receiver on your team was going to be the best receiver at his college. You know, these are all super talented players, and so much of the working in the NFL is like finding what scheme you're at. And there might not be a better scheme than the 49ers, because, I mean, they played like 3 or 4 quarterbacks last. It was an absolute disaster. They on paper, their roster, by the end of it, they had the most injuries, and it was really rough to watch at times. But they still won 6 or 7 games. I know that might not be a huge thing to some people, but they were able to scrap that out. So if they're able to take someone like Mac, who absolutely has the football intelligence to learn this thing. I mean, when you were looking at all the videos and all the coaches, they just raved about his intelligence, because he was like drawing up plays from like week 2 for them, or he's been studying some NFL teams too. I know he was mentioning that, but I mean, the guy's just a football genius. And pairing that with someone like Kyle Shanahan, who's only going to work with his strengths, like he's been doing with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I think that's a match made in heaven. And I'm not looking to diminish Justin Fields at all, but I think Mac has stuff that translates at the next level more so than just raw talent. He has the skill, and he has the smarts to be able to succeed in the next level.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I think this is going to be a great situation no matter which quarterback goes to San Francisco, because it is a possibility that you are not going to be called upon, although you are a top third pick in the NFL draft. Most of the time when you are drafted that high, you are expected to be a player who's going to play year one, possibly week 1 of that upcoming season. And with Jimmy G still being in San Francisco, you might not have that weight on your shoulder. You might get a year to sit behind a veteran quarterback, learn the system, and I think that would be a great opportunity for any one of those guys.
Yeah, I don't really know how much he's going to be learning from Jimmy G. I mean, he was the prince. You know, he was the prince that was promised. To make a little Game of Thrones reference, but at least he was in New England when he looked like it when he first got there in San Francisco. And look, he took him to a Super Bowl. But, I mean, he's just kind of average, to me, at least.
Did he take him to the Super Bowl, or did they take him to the Super Bowl?
They had a really good coaching staff, and he did what he was asked. I mean, I think he threw he had one of the had the all-time hilarious stat lines in the NFC Championship. I think he threw for 50 yards, and they won by 40 just because their run game was so dominant. Yeah, so, I mean, look, if that's all you have to do to get to a Super Bowl, I think Mac Jones can do that. And so I think he would be a great pick there. He'd be a great fit. And I think they should just move off of and look, I know they made comments about keeping Jimmy G around for a little bit, but I think right around week 6, that's when all these guys kind of, fizzle out a little bit in terms of, the owners get involved, being like, you know what, maybe we want to see what our top 3 pick has to offer here. And that was something what the Dolphins did with Tua. There were reports that the coaching staff didn't think he was ready. They wanted Fitzpatrick, but the owners were like, you know what? We have a lot invested in this guy. Let's see what he's got to offer.
Yeah. I like I said, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for Fields or Jones. I like both guys. I really like Fields' mobility and also his strength. I think he's a very strong quarterback, a guy who has good size when you look at his frame. But Mac Jones brings a lot to the table. I think he was really impressive this past season for Alabama with some of the throws he was able to make and in some of the positions he was able to put the ball in. It almost looked as if he was playing perfect at times this past season. So any team would be happy to have any of these guys, and if they slip past that number 3 spot, another team is going to be happy to have any one of those guys.
Oh yeah, another guy people are hoping is slipping is Devonta Smith here. Originally, he was slotted right at the end of the season. Everyone was so excited about him just because he was the first wide receiver to win the Heisman Trophy since Desmond Howard, and that was 30 years ago. I don't know, but now all of a sudden he's sliding down up. He's on some mock drafts he's like top 5, top 6. On others he's within the 15-20 range or 10 to 15 range. There seems to be a little bit the Devonta train seems to be slowing down just a hair.
Yeah. And
a lot of that is probably due to his size, which is still look, I get it. I get it. He's 170 pounds. Don't look at the website. He's not 175. He's 170. He was weighed at the pro day.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're worried about him holding up, and I think that's a legitimate concern. But Nick Saban said in his conference, look, he showed up and he was 150 pounds, and he was able to put on 20 in 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with these NFL diets, they'd say if you thought Alabama had good resources, I mean, look at some of these NFL teams. It's freaking incredible. So I think he'll be able to put on the weight. And also the criticisms of his physicality. I mean, he was their best blocker downfield when all these Jalen Waddle will be the first to tell you he was the best blocker on the team.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things that I liked about Devonta Smith is that physicality. Despite having that slim frame, I think he understood his size, and I think he played with a chip on his shoulder, did the little things as far as being physical, going up and get the football at its highest point, blocking, like you said. He was also a tough runner at times. It was not easy to get him down in the open field, especially with this quickness, with this speed, also being a tough runner at times. So I definitely think he has a lot, and he brings a lot to the table. But the biggest thing for Devonta Smith also heading into this NFL draft seems to be the comparison between him and Jamar Chase, and it's kind of like the Justin Fields and Mac Jones situation. Pick who you want.
I mean, look, if you just looked at, I mean, if you weren't looking at stats or highs, if you're just looking at physicals, I mean, you would have to pick Jamar Chase. Yeah. This dude's built like an ox, and he plays wide receiver. He runs like a 4.5, 4.4, something crazy like that. He's a absolute freak. And Alabama fans know well off that LSU game a couple years ago, and that was a great team. And heartbreaking loss and a long night for me because I didn't get home till very, very late.
Side note about that game, when you go back and look at that game was loaded with some talented wide receivers.
Oh yeah, I know. It was the craziest receiver group ever. I mean, it was Ruggs, Waddle, Smith, Judy, just on one side. That's 4 first-round wide receivers.
And then you had Chase, and also you had
Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's killing the league right now too.
Yeah, that's what made me think about it. The way he played this past season in the league, and I was thinking about that game. That game was a wide receiver. A wide receiver paradise because it was great wide receivers all over the field.
I still remember going back to that game. That was the first time I'd ever see them break out like the picnic table to put below the press box just to fit all the NFL scouts. Yeah. I mean, each team sent like 4 people. It was literally an atmosphere like I've never experienced because I think that was like the first that was the first game for me because I think that was my first year full time.
Yeah,
I think. No, this was my first year full. That was my last year interning here. Yeah. But that was the biggest game I had covered up to that point. Yeah. I was never in an atmosphere that intense before. And I don't know what you get because some of these high school games are crazy sometimes, maybe state championships, but there's truly, or some people may argue NFL games, NFL rivalries, but I will go to the grave saying there is nothing like an intense SEC rivalry to experience. And that game was like nothing else to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I have been to a couple of those, but the ones I've attended have never lived up to the hype. But that one actually lived up to the hype, and I'm pretty sure it was pretty. Yeah,
and that's exciting. What I missed. The thing I missed the most is like everyone else is the crowds, because when Tua threw that last touchdown pass to Smitty, like the stadium was shaking. Yeah. It was like a mini earthquake for what was going on. And it's just something I really miss, and hopefully we can get back to that sooner rather than later. But yeah, I mean, it's just nothing. It's just nothing like college football in the South, man.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Just going to the couple games I've been to. I don't think I've been to one that, like I said, to the hype. I think the only one I experienced in Bryant-Denny Stadium as a student in terms of the stadium kind of shaking is when I think when Tennessee took Alabama down to the wire when he had Derrick Henry, of course. And I think I'm not sure who made the sack. I think it was the Shanahan who made the sack on Joshua Dobbs. And
no, I know what you're talking about.
It was a forced fumble, yeah, and I think that was like that.
Damn, you're going to school then?
Yeah, I was going to school then.
I was thinking I was in high school then. Oh, no, I keep forgetting so what year did you graduate?
Yeah, high school or
college.
20. I graduated 1 year before you.
Okay, you were a year before me. Okay, I never know. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you good.
I can't keep track of everybody. There's a lot of useless information in this brain.
Yeah, you good.
But so you said you were disappointed in more games than usual. What's the most disappointing game do you think? Even if you were a student going to it.
Well, I don't know if it was disappointing. I don't remember. I think it turned out to be a pretty dominant win by Alabama. I'm not 100% sure. I can't really remember it too much, but I think it was the Texas A&M Alabama game.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
2017?
Yeah. It was like a really, I think it was Trevor Knight.
It was Trevor Knight, Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
It was because like that was back when their schedule was, to be honest, it was brutal in terms of just the competition being lesser than expected. I think they played like 6 unranked teams in a row until that point, and they blitzed them. They absolutely stomped them. But that Texas A&M game, I think they were like the first ranked team they'd played in a while.
Yeah.
And there's some momentum behind Trevor Knight and Myles Garrett being like the first overall pick, and they just absolutely took him to the shed.
Yeah, and I think another thing that made that game have so much hype around it was that Trevor Knight beat Alabama with Oklahoma previously, so they thought he could possibly beat Alabama. And I remember like sitting where I used to sit at in the stadium when I was a student was basically like, so I can see the field, I guess, north and south. And I remember when Jonathan Allen basically did the Superman tackle on Trevor Knight, and that was a pretty amazing thing to see live.
Oh, no, he was a freaking nature. I actually have a little bit of an upsetting story. You're bringing back bad memories now for me. I have a little bit of an upsetting story from that game.
Yeah.
So I was a student at the time. It was my first year as a freshman year. And my dad, God bless him, wanted to make sure I was able to go to this huge game. So I didn't, spend the $200 or whatever some kid was charging to go sit in the student section. My dad bought a ticket in the normal stands.
Yeah.
So and it was a pretty decent spot. I think it was in one of the corners of the end zone. And I go there, and this is like 40 minutes till kickoff. I was still tailgating up till as close as I could. But so I go there, and this is my biggest gripe, and I know a lot of fans feel this way. And I know Bryant-Denny has to be like this, but the bench seating,
yeah,
there was like, look, I'm a big guy here.
Yeah.
This is like, so I need a little bit of space. I can't be squeezing in between, two grown-ass people here.
Yeah.
I need a little bit of space to settle in and be comfortable. But in this situation, there was no space on the bench. They were completely taking up my spot with their 2 kids and like one of the parents. So I moved 2 seats down, as one would do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna be like let me squeeze in between you guys here.
Yeah.
This is kind of weird. So I go 2 seats down. Of course, the next 2 people come up and be, hey, you're in my seat. And being a little hustler I was trying to be, I was like, hey, look, I mean, they're in my seat, they're not moving. Do you think you could just scooch down? And I was, but I'm just a nice little freshman here, just looking to watch this big game. And this woman goes, no. Just she was not having it with me. She was not hearing it. She was not hearing my sob story. So then I just got up and I stood the entire game. And I stood behind the Alabama sideline. So in all, it was actually cool to just like see everyone celebrate on the sidelines. But my legs were killing me afterwards. And I walked, and I was a freshman, so I walked everywhere. And of course, I lived in the dorm that was all the way on the other side of campus. So I was hurting on the way home here. I think I was hurting more than some of the players that day because they were out by halftime. So that story is still a little bit upsetting to me. And I wish the game was a little bit better to justify my pain.
Yeah, it was a disappointing game to me as well. I think the build up around it was a top 10 matchup. It was somewhere around. It was a pretty hyped matchup. But it's going back to all of the draft talk and just looking at some.
Yeah, a lot of those guys are in the league now. So. Yeah, but someone else that's a little bit disappointed in their situation here is some of the comments made by our good NFL draft analyst Todd McShay and some of the things he said about Najee Harris. So from what I can tell here from this article, Todd McShay, the ESPN, I'll just read it from here. The ESPN insider would read him the draft report that Todd McShay had on him, and this was during Najee Harris's appearance on the Adam Schefter podcast.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that Todd McShay said that Schefter was reading to Harris kind of made him a little bit upset. One of the statements Schefter read was McShay saying how Harris showed improvement as a pass catcher, and that's been, if anyone's been following Najee Harris, a little bit of a testy thing to poke at with him. So, as one would respond, then this is a quote here. Najee Harris said, "I think Todd McShay can kiss my ass." How is he going to say he showed better production? I did not play my freshman or sophomore seasons, rarely ever. I didn't have an opportunity to show I could catch. It's not because I can't. It's because I wasn't in the game to show people I could catch. So let's just stop looking at the stat sheet and watch the game. So pretty emphatically put. And this was 2 years ago. One of the reporters brought up Najee's route running and pass catching ability and asking him, like, how much more time the offseason should put in to work on this. And Najee was just like, dude, I could always catch. I'm playing football here. I just never got the opportunity to run routes and catch passes, and now I do. And now you're seeing what I can do. So, I'm not going to put anything against him. He's if he feels some type of way about it, to tell him to kiss his ass, then all more power to him, right, John?
Yeah.
It's a lot to poke at when you look at this whole situation. First off, I have to applaud Najee Harris, the way he has handled interviews during his last season.
Oh, he's awesome.
At Alabama. He was an awesome interview, very entertaining. I think that it's going to help him at the next level as far as endorsements are concerned. I think he's going to do really well in that department. And he's always been a person who uses profanity a lot. I don't know if you remember his recruiting process. Of course, I wasn't a reporter then. I wasn't covering recruiting when he was going through the recruiting process as far as him coming to Alabama, but his recruiting was a bit of a show, a little bit of uncertainty. But I remember people who talk about interviewing him, they will always say he used profanity in every interview.
Oh, no, he is completely authentic, which is what I love about him.
He was cursing in high school?
Yeah. He was cursing in high school, according to the reports.
He just didn't care. He just, I mean, some of these Californians are just different. They just don't care, And that's what I like about him. He's authentic. He's just going to say what's on his mind. He's not going to change for anybody. He's going to speak his truth and just move on and just go with it.
Yeah, he's real. I think he showed that a lot of times during his time at Alabama with him giving his food away. Of course, you saw that video, but also with them shouting out the local reporter who jumped in on a press conference where he was.
Oh yeah, no, he remembers people. He's genuine. Like if you were covering him back in high school and we was just hyping him up, and he's gonna remember you. He's just not gonna. He's not bigger than anybody else. He's just the same person like always, and I think that's a little bit refreshing because some of these players are just either too scared to do it. It's just what are the coach gonna say? Whatever. I'm just gonna say whatever I want.
Yeah, and another thing I want to poke at here. I actually like Najee Harris out of the backfield. I think
I think a lot of other people do too. I don't think that's a controversial take.
I think that is one of his biggest strengths. I think that's one of the things that kind of separates him from other running backs. When you look at his size, he could be a wide receiver. Of course, he joked about it during the season, saying he is a wide out, an honorary wide out, because he wants to be part of that special unit, that special group. But I always felt that was one of his biggest strengths. I think it came to the forefront during his last season with Tua Tagovailoa, especially in the LSU game.
He was like, I think he put 100 in both rushing and passing. I mean, that the whole stretch of that last season, he was just an absolute bell cow. And into this year, Saban was talking about it. We brought up a bunch of times how Alabama just wants to get multiple backs involved, and Saban's like, no, I can't. I can't. You just have to keep him on the field. He's that dominant in both areas of the game, whether it's passing or running. It's just crazy how much talent he has, and he's another guy who just built like an absolute animal. I mean, his legs are enormous, and no wonder he can jump over humans.
Yeah. I think any team would be lucky to have him. And looking at it from the analyst perspective, of course, we provide our own analysis a lot. A lot of times you do have to poke stuff around because you want to challenge the player. You want to see areas where you feel they need to improve. And I think it was more Todd McShay having something to say and having a little bit of evidence behind Najee Harris not being the best running back catching the ball out of the backfield because he was unable to get on the field, which is why Najee Harris was so upset. I guess I can sort of see the analysis behind it, but from my perspective, looking at what Najee Harris brought to the table, I thought catching the ball out of the backfield was one of his strengths.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. All these guys who work for Fox Sports, NFL Network, or ESPN who are solely covering the draft, they have a lot of players and a lot of tape to watch. So they just based in something, it's all just tape, stat sheets, and phone calls.
Yeah.
To whoever. And sometimes the best way to go about it is to talk to like a beat reporter. That's just the best way you can do it. Because I think if you talk to any of anybody who is in these Zoom calls, these conferences, what are Najee Harris' strengths or what are his weaknesses, I don't think anybody would have said, he can't really catch or run routes very well. I don't think anyone would have said that. So I think it was just a thing of, he's got a lot of ground to cover here, not a lot, and it may seem like a lot of time, but it is like thousands, hundreds of players who are entering this draft. So I think it was just something that it just wasn't that featured in his game or on his tape at the start, and it's just something that he, all producers are probably like, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? You have to find something. There's got to be something there. Because if we're complimenting someone, we also have to have something that's a little bit critiquing. So I think that's just kind of how it was, and he had to come up with something. And pass catching was the easiest thing, and I think that's just it.
Yeah, and like I said, I understand the analysis because Alabama offers hundreds of kids each recruiting class, and I have to know at least something about each one of them for the most part. So I definitely feel where Todd McShay
yeah, you feel his pain.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, you got a lot. I mean, I think I got a lot. There's still some people on the roster who I haven't seen you cover prior to this, or who have transferred in. I'm like, wait, who's this again? I mean, it's always rough out here. I'm not a name person, so it's always just going to be tough remembering these people and just remembering what kind of players they are. It's just a lot of homework.